Hello, this is Attila16 and this is a video replay of Wargame Red Dragon open beta. So everything you see in there might be subject to change. This is a replay, so I'm not playing it. This is actually a round that we did play with a very unusual deck. And actually, let's see this. Because it was a kind of crazy idea, but we decided that since everybody play Red Dragon with a lot of usually good tank, which is one of the great innovation, as well as great technologies, we decided to play World War II style. So, and the people involved in this, which mean Toby and Alf, were pretty insistent on me showing you guys this replay. So you can see, well, I decided not to bring all the T-34, but you can see a large amount of T-34 being deployed over here in the spawn, and we'll see the result of all this. Now, what is, let's say that it's not a particularly smart strategy, but the thing is that this is an approach to a battle which kind of make the charm of Wargame, because Wargame is really a game where you can end up, you should be able to expect anything. Anything can happen, and I think this, what I'm showing right now, is one of those random things that can happen. So you should be prepared to anything. And essentially the doctrine around what we're doing right now is to have an enormous amount of T-34, and here we also have a Mi-24 in large number, and they will play a big role actually, probably more than my T-34. And we're kind of, I believe this is a global pact deck, so there's no specific nation. The purpose of being not specialized in this was to be able to have as many T-34 as possible. Now in the mix with T-34, I brought a few VTT 323 Strela, which are troop transport. So I have a few infantry. They also have missiles, machine gun, but it's really the Strela anti-air which is the main interest, because that makes them very effective at dealing with choppers. Now, what else was in there? There was a few troop transport here. I'm not sure what was in there. We had the command vehicle with infantry. Well, actually, an Mi-8 with a command infantry. Now, essentially what happened is that we were 3 players doing this particular strategy. So there was me, Toby, and Alf, which was over here. And the guy over here did not take the message that this road right here is broken. Yeah, look at that. Essentially there's a 90-degree road angle there. But essentially the goal here was to win with World War II stuff, because in this game many people, they rely on expensive tanks, so M1A1 and that kind of stuff. As a result of this, we wanted to test out if we were able to defeat that with World War II tank. We also had a large amount of chopper, and I think the thing is that with the North, these are North Korean chopper, so you can have them in large number. They're not, Mi-24 is not the best chopper ever, but they have a lot of rockets, so in order to secure this town here, it was important to have a kind of chopper rush. Also, I did bring a few Colossus, because with the T-34 you run out of fuel pretty fast. So as a result of this, I had to bring a few supplies to support my advance. You can just realize the amount of T-34 on that road. While the other side brought a couple of M11P Abrams, a couple of anti-air. What is surprising is how they did not really notice the large amount of chopper here. Also splitted the choppers here to support a little the center, which was actually very effective. And while the Mi-24 don't necessarily have much, well, they don't have the best missile ever, but it's just that with the number they managed to kill everything that come close. So I did a quick refueling of my T-34. Now they just went through that town and got ready to attack the position over there. Which, as you can see, they were not particularly numerous. Now the main challenge with attacking with T-34 like that is usually that they are great targets for airstrike, and they are also getting destroyed pretty easily. You can see a few choppers here which are literally trying to break the blockade. But those T-34, I have actually an okay machine gun on top. So you can see that they did react by bringing a lot of air units. So you can see Cobras on the side over there. Was also an aardvark flying around there. Now the Cobra were intercepted by those Strela, which are North Korean troops. While the Abrams here, M11P, were really killing everything. There's even cluster bomb strike. There was a few of our planes flying above. There was also one of those Apache that have 16 Hellfire missile. So they really did react to my T-34 rush in a big way. Now my Strela here did shoot down a couple of choppers. They really do prove their worth. The T-34 rush nearly turned into a kind of distraction for the Strela to shoot down choppers. And you can see here that the Abrams were... they did not have a scratch. And they brought 4 more over here. So that many T-34 did not manage to break through some Abrams. On the other hand, we didn't manage to kill... well, with those Strela we did kill a lot of choppers, Cobras. And here there was even one of those Lav which sacrificed themselves. Why can't you decide to buy this or not? What's your argumentation there? Questionable. What's your questioning? Also, I did bring a few Strela 10M. What's interesting about the Strela 10M in this new version of Wargame is that they are actually pretty accurate, or they have a fast rate of fire, actually both, and they are infrared, which means that seed plane won't be able to kill them. Also, they can fire on the move pretty effectively, so as a result of this you're able to kill planes. And the thing is that with planes that have a lot of ECM lately, that new version, many, for example, Strela 1M are nearly useless because they will miss all the time. But the Strela 10M becomes a kind of an effective way to deal with everything. There will be big booms there. Oh, that was cluster bomb, so not particularly a big boom, but it did kill a few tanks. In the center here there was a lot of Milan infantry, which is an interesting thing to bring. Actually here, the guy which we did not really knew, he did a good job on the side. He did manage to push forward. While here we kinda had a proper defense in case there was a counterattack, but they just decided to camp there. I guess my T-34 attack kinda convinced them not to attack further. And this was also a round of economy, which means that You can win if you don't spend that much points. So the whole purpose of economy is initially you capture as much zone as possible, and whoever has the most zone have the most resource. But if they are forced to defend those zones by constant enemy attack, they are spending stuff. So as a result, you see the number here go up and down. So each time you buy something, you're reducing your chance of winning, while each time you make the enemy spend stuff, well, you're reducing his chance of winning. As a result of this, it's a kind of much more interesting game type than let's say conquest or destruction for small rounds, because it's all about being aggressive at the beginning and playing well after. So the enemy did waste another chopper here. That was a troop transport. There might have been an objective to make me waste my anti-air. Here we had a few tanky shashu or something like that, which are a very good unit, because if you look here, they use a Type 78RR anti-tank, and this thing actually has 3 HE power, so that makes them actually good against infantry as well. So this unit is a very deadly anti-tank and anti-infantry unit. They also have heat capacity, so this unit is one of the Chinese unit, I think. Yeah, it is, and they are really effective. So at that point you can see that we're not moving particularly well, we're not moving much. Actually, the enemy started to bombard the Mi-24. That's why I told Toby to pull back a little, because in this game artillery seemed very deadly for choppers, which wasn't the case before. So just we pulled back our choppers. Also, one characteristic of this map is that on the right side you have some hills which prevent your vehicle from going over there, but infantry can go there. While here you do have a pretty wide an empty desert, and there's no purpose to that zone other than being a wide open access to the side here. So if the enemy doesn't put any recon, you can really sneak over here. So while the enemy is focusing their attention on that zone, not defending that zone, or potentially attacking this one, well, they leave this area wide open. So this is something that we kind of came aware of, and actually in one round I did play the enemy teams actually flanked us on from both sides using the side like that. So here Toby decided to do a flanking move with his chopper. He actually did bring a scout chopper as well, which is good against enemy chopper. And what's amazing is that they did not see him at all. If we look at what they saw, essentially they saw nothing. So that's what they saw. And actually it's very rare that people defend their spawn like that, and they just leave open this access here. So that's why if you ever play that map, I think you should really consider putting scouts over here. And you can see that they really did not see anything coming. Even though these were chopper over here, normally chopper are much easier to spot, and they even had planes flying around. They saw nothing. So there you go. You have an entire armada of chopper coming in. And that does allow us to destroy their artillery. You can see their reaction is to call in a lot of anti-air. They also bring in aardvark, but the aardvark cannot bombard those choppers with cluster bomb because they are too close. This is the area where you call in your air reinforcements. So you have a lot of Mi-24 suppressing the reinforcements over there. I did engage a few MiG-23 into the fight. We did kill the command vehicle, which meant that the enemy will not be able to bring any air support anymore. So that was a very good move on Toby's part. And I had those guys which were coming in very slowly though. I had my MiG-23 helping out the operation, so chasing down whatever I saw around the place. And just the fact that with the North Korean currently, you can have so many Mi-24, we really were able to clear out this area. And here you can see that I'm sneaking around in an Mi-8, a command infantry unit. So my objective here, and I guess this is one of the main interests of those chopper with infantry, it's to capture a zone quickly, but it's also a great unit to sneak around infantry, command infantry. So while here the Cobra were just outnumbered by those Mi-24. And by the way, those Mi-24 have Yak-B cannon, which is actually a pretty good cannon against chopper. It's not as good as it used to be in Airland battle, but it's still a very effective weapon against chopper because it has a fast rate of fire. So that kind of stun them. So here I'm patrolling with the MiG-23 ML, which are not that expensive, but one of the benefits to actually having those MiG-23 ML is that those Super Cobra target them instead of our choppers, ensuring perhaps longer security, while losing the MiG-23 ML is not a big deal because I think they only cost 80, so these are not Korean also. And on top of that, they provide the proper support against enemy choppers. So now I have my infantry, which finally reached the area, using the very empty desert over there. While here they really did a mistake because they did not pull back anything. It's like they did not realize or something. Somebody did not inform them, or that they just lost their rear. While here, my Mi-8 with command infantry is landing. While this Mi-24 is still receiving the enemy flak. It's kind of very surprising that they did not prioritize the destruction of my Mi-8, which had the command infantry. So as soon as I captured that zone, which is now ours, I brought in another T-72 command vehicle, because you really don't want the enemy to be able to take back that zone by just killing a few infantrymen. While here my VTT 323 Strela did shoot down a longbow. And I brought in also a couple of T-34, sorry. So here the difficulty is not to be spotted that much. They seem to be clearing the path also from the wrecks. So now my focus really shifted from this place here to that place here. And also, since this is a zone where you can spawn in planes, well, I brought in 2 planes, which got wasted here. You can see the amount of anti-air in that area. But the objective of all this was just to stun that Abrams. So my T-34 are now securing this place. and they only cost 10. So even though it's not a particularly amazing tank compared to everything else you can have, since you can call in so many of them, you can end up actually hurting the enemy. So those strata, once again, this unit is really amazing. This is a North Korean troop transport. I think it should be mandatory in any packed army to have those stratas. It's very likely that one aspect that make it more interesting over other units anti-air is that it's not identified as an anti-air. Well, here Toby really went all the way out with his chopper. Big reinforcements of Mi-24. So that took care of that. What was that, by the way? Okay, M60. Okay, so here, moving forward with my T-34. Martyr can actually kill a T-34. Now, two M11P are pretty much sufficient to destroy a large amount of T-34, as you can see. And when the T-34 are actually shooting, they're missing, even at an extremely close range. But it's just that there is so many in number. And also, up to a certain point, you have Mi-24 in the back that pretty much do the job. T-34 become a kind of a spotting mechanism. T-34, sorry. And all the T-34 you lose, you just replace them. And each of them costs 10 points. So it's not that much of a big deal. I'm using the move fast because this way I'm able to get closer to the enemy. And what's interesting about T-34 is that they have kinetic energy. So the closer you are to your enemy, the more damage you'll do. So for example, here these are Abrams M11P, and as you can see, even the machine gun of the chopper don't hurt them much, but my T-34 are killing them slowly. Of course, shooting them in the flank does help. So yeah. And now, of course, behind those T-34, more T-34. So what I did here is I decided to keep moving forward, hoping that there wouldn't be no problem. But sadly, disaster struck. Lost my T-34. I did kill a few things here, I'm not sure what that was. Bradley and Vulcan. But now the enemy was very encouraged by the fact that he did kill my tank there. So he went up, but you can see here that I had more T-34 in the back. And since this was a very close range fire, even an Abrams cannot face that many T-34 at short range. Now on the rest of the battlefield, it was going pretty good because I think most of the enemy were actually focusing on us here. And here I had a kind of build up. Well, here Toby did a kind of T-34 rush in the front, which did not go too well. Because with 7 M11P Abrams, that was hurting. But here's the deal about good tank. Abrams have, individually speaking, 25 rounds. So as a result of this, the more tank you throw at them, the more they use that ammo. And at some point they run out of ammo. Because you can see now that this specific unit of Abrams has now 6 rounds remaining. So it's not that much. So the situation seemed to have been going very well on this side for the most part. I guess Toby did send a lot of MI-24, which I guess it's kind of up to a certain point that chopper spamming. But when you combine that with T-34, still a lot of enemy to defeat for the enemy. So I brought some infantry which are anti-tank but can also shoot infantry. And you can see here I'm pushing toward that base over there, that zone. They were trying to recapture or at least stop us from holding their spawn over there. That's why I actually moved in the infantry that were transported by Meister all the way here. And I started to send a few T-34 in the back of the position, which was their strong point over here. It's clear that these guys should have probably attacked Charlie instead of defending that position, because Charlie is much more important to them than Echo was. And here I decided to move in with my very inexpensive vehicle troop transport. And the purpose of this move was definitely to just make them waste their ammo. So these Abrams only have 1 round remaining. Well, here my T-34 are moving in the back, killing the Pivad or Pivad. Which can probably actually hurt my T-34. As I said early on in this live stream, this is a packed deck, and there's no characteristic to it other than being packed, so it's not restricted to anything. The advantage of this is that I had, I think, 190 something unit of T-34 that I could deploy on the battlefield, and during this fight I barely did it. So this unit of Abrams has 1 round remaining, while this one has 31. So at that point I got tired and started to advance with my infantry to make a kind of a Chinese rush. Of course, these are small units of infantry. Oh yeah, and while I kept the pressure on the enemy over there with a lot of T-34, so here with a lot of infantry I was hoping to perhaps manage to kill those Abrams. I can see that they're firing a kind of recoilless rifle, and the Abrams are now out of cannon ammo. They still have a machine gun, which proved to be a pain. And I seem to be able to damage them a little even from the front. But the whole point of this is to make them run out of ammo. Now somehow we managed to destroy their command vehicle. I'm not sure how that happened. I missed it. And my T-34 also moving in. And of course dying in large number. But I think what's interesting about using T-34, many people can actually say that, oh well, you know, you're spamming unit. Yeah, but they cost 10 and they're really hard to... they won't be able to kill your Abrams, as you can see here actually. But you're spending on Abrams, which are costing you probably 10 times or more the amount of points that a T-34 worth. And when you look at the result of this battle, you'll see each Abrams that were in that battle nearly had 25 T-34 kill. So it's like what end up making the Abrams die is that they run out of ammo. So that's the whole point of this strategy. You can see more T-34 here. And a lot of Mi-24 choppers. It's kind of crazy. This is okay, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. But we had the whole place, so. Well, here the Abrams were at 4 rounds remaining. So all they could offer against my infantry was their machine gun, which still had a lot of ammo. And what was kind of funny is that lav, which I did not really show it, but it was really moving around all the place because they were trying to find a place where to capture back the zone, but they were unable to. So that was a kind of an experimental game. We usually don't play like that, but we just wanted to test if T-34 were a worthy solution. And turned out that what's interesting here is that we actually did kill much more than what we lost. Of course, a good portion of this goes to the Mi-24, which were attack chopper, but even I, which wasted a lot of T-34, ended up in a positive score. And the reason is that T-34 are so inexpensive that you can lose so many before reaching the amount that if you were to lose one Abrams, that will give the enemy a lot of points. So essentially, despite losing enormous amount of troops, it went well. So that was an interesting and addictive replay. Now let's check another one. I guess we'll go with this one. Not sure what that is. Yeah, of course, the argument of losing my T-34 crew is pretty terrible, but you know, when you look at World War II, it was like that. It was that amount of tanks which were deployed, so, and that amount of tanks which could be lost. So it's kind of crazy when you think of World War II. So even if the enemy doesn't lose the same amount, I think you still lose the same amount as if you were fighting a World War II war. Okay, so where am I? Okay, where am I actually? That's a big question. Very fundamental. So I seem to be over here, and in this case, what am I fighting with? I think I probably was fighting with the Japanese. Well, as the Japanese. Yeah, I was. And actually here I did use World War II tank, as you can see here. This is the Japanese World War II tank, which is called what? Well, doesn't really have a... It's called a Rokuichi Shiki. So this is a pretty much like a Sherman, an evolved Sherman. And here I have some infantry. The Japanese have a really good infantry. And I think this is actually a Japanese deck which is mechanized. And I found that the mechanized Japanese infantry is a very worthy approach to the fight. Because you want your infantry to be good. And the Japanese have some units which are a good combo of equipment. Unlike, not unlike, but let's say that they have their own specific way of fighting things. So let's see. And I guess we have, well, we seem to have some British stuff here. So I'll be going on the left side in this. Oh, I also use F-15G, both for clearing anything which might be flying around. We have also a few Eurofighter air covering. So you can admire that if you want. And my Japanese F-15. And he just lost sight at the last moment on that chopper. So here that seemed to have been a kind of initial move by my ally that did not go too well. Nonetheless, when you do an attack like that with a lot of chopper, you kind of expect that kind of disaster early on. Well, on this side here, the fight is all about capturing this town, because whoever has it has a kind of strong defensive position for the zone behind it. And here's my Japanese infantry. This is Kyodotai, and these guys, what's interesting about them is if you look at their loadout, they have a rifle, yes. They have an M67RR, which is an anti-tank recoilless rifle. So this is a very effective weapon against tank. But what's even more interesting is the fact that they have a machine gun which is good in CQB. So that means that it's very effective at defending against enemy infantry. But as you can see, not that much action on my side. The chopper landed a scout unit, which was quickly dealt with by my chopper here. But a lot of the fight seemed to have been going on down there. Seemed that an Su-27 went by. And my Japanese anti-air took care of that. I also have a lot of tank here in a kind of very dangerous position. If there was an airstrike on this, I will lose a lot. But the issue right now was that these tanks run out of fuel very quickly. So I brought in some supplies under the form of choppers. And I also did notice that the enemy did not capture that zone, so I moved my chopper a little forward just to scout, as most of the action happened over here. So that line of tree really become a kind of fortification because it conceals your troops. I really like this map. I think this one is probably one of the best map which is available in the open beta. So I think also this map is really a map which reminds me up to a certain point of 10 versus 10 without being 10 versus 10. Because it's a kind of map with similar characteristic. You have a side which is well, there's a couple of towns, and the center is kind of open, and you have also sneaking possibilities on the side, and that's why I really like that map. So now I'm moving toward the town. There's a sniper which is killing my poor little guy here. Look at them. But because Kyoto Tai have CQB, they can deal with enemy infantry pretty quickly in urban environment. So here I didn't manage to kill a chopper there. And once again, I think this is this is a round of economic. So the goal of this is not necessarily to kill stuff, it's to be cost effective. So you need to make the enemy spend points to fight you while being very effective in the way you're using your units. And I guess with using these tanks are actually, they cost only 10 points, so they're not that expensive. So by using that, I'm really saving money. And it's a kind of unit which is not that dramatic when you lose them in towns, for example, like here. And also, since I was fighting BMP3, well, BMP3 can kill them, but number overwhelmed the enemy. So my infantry now was clearing out that town. You can see that they are rather effective at it. Oh, that's one of the ugly plane in the game, which is now falling, even as a rear machine gun. And the thing is that I really took a risk there by moving forward. But with Kyoto Tai, I'm very confident. And you can see how they are actually able to suppress the enemy. How many T34 per card? I think there's one card which actually, I think it's the Polish, that gives you 40, but the other one I think it's 32. What's interesting about these World War II tank, or Korean War in this case, nearly, tank is that they are still tank, and they're able to handle rockets and survive enemy fire up to a certain point. So even though they don't have that much firepower, they can be an effective attack force. It's just a question of making sure that they have the fuel for it. Now the issue is that those Motostrelski were really numerous. On top of that, MLRS now. And also what's interesting about using inexpensive tank is that when you have a unit like an Akula like here, now these have 16 Vickers missile, or actually 12, is that it? Yeah, 12. So they have 12 Vickers missile, and when they shoot those missiles for a 10-point tank, it's kind of a waste. There you go, bye-bye Kamov. I moved my transport forward, mostly for scouting purpose. Now sadly, there was a couple of anti-air in the center. And I think the anti-air in Red Dragon are actually very different from Airland Battle. They seem very effective against chopper, which is a good thing. But because the planes now have ECM, which are much stronger, especially the most expensive plane, the anti-air become much more defense against chopper than planes. And here you have that awesome North Korean anti-air, well, actually troop transport. Now my Kyoto Thai are really suffering from persistent artillery strike that never end. And here you see me bringing a lot of those World War II tank again. As well as a couple of infantry to reinforce the town. One of my ally spent the point necessary to capture this zone over here so that we can make more points. While here on that side, not sure what happened, not much. I guess as long as you keep the enemy over there, it's okay. Who are these guys? I guess these are probably some kind of reservist. I guess one of the mistake of my adversaries here was to bring a lot of reinforcements, but one after the other. It's likely that perhaps the strategy there might have been that they wanted to have a corrected fire on my position, which is a possibility. But it also meant that they were never really willing to take the place completely. They were not using the road either. What are these? Oh. Never saw that one that close before. Now if we check globally speaking, what's going on here? So here they were kind of doing a good job here, putting some recon in case of flanking. That was very, very good. On our case, we did not, which could have been a danger. I guess in this case, the artillery really was what pushed me back. At least at that point, because I had reinforcements now, I would be able to move forward. Mechanized shooting. You should not underestimate these. But against Leopard 2A5, probably only tickle them. Brought in some F-15, I'm not sure why. They were harassing me with Tunguska, which is still one of the best anti-air. I think some people they ask me in many occasions, "Oh, use the Tor," and when I look at the Tor, which is over there. Let's see. I think there's one. Did I see one? Actually, I don't see a Tor. Anyway, I find the Tor to be very ineffective. While the Tunguska, on the other hand, is pretty amazing. This thing really kills the chopper from super far. Let's check the stats. It's 3.3 kilometer, which is usually further than even the longest range of chopper missile. So you cannot counter a Tunguska with one chopper. Maybe many chopper, but not one. Here you have a kind of a fight between a Leopard. That's one of the new tank, by the way. It's said that when they are concealed in the wood, the texture doesn't appear. Against T-72M. This is the North Korean version of the T-72. Well, I guess it's a bad example while they're exploding, but actually this unit, cost effectively speaking, is actually pretty good. So I think if you like to play North Korean, you should consider the T-72M. Compared to other nation, it's a pretty good T-72. Okay, here we focused fire on that field to kill it. Oh, that was one Tor. That's why. I guess the main issue of the enemies in this particular case is that they did not manage to build up their force in sufficient number to be able to push forward. So up to a certain point, you really end up into a situation where neither side has the capacity to attack, and that turns into a kind of artillery exchange. So it's all about bombarding each other. Fortunately, this is a round of economic, and as a result of this, bombarding doesn't matter as much as if it was destruction. In destruction, you regularly end up into a battle where it's all about moving your little scout around and bombarding each other. Well, in this case, they were actually doing that. But the difference is that since this was economic, you know, you can kill as many of my troops as you want. I don't really care. As long as I bring less expensive troop than the enemy, I end up accumulating points. Who are these? Japanese bomber. They are nearly flying in formation there. Going into the center of the earth. Yeah, it's down there. No, it's not there. Oh yeah, here I was actually trying to bombard those artillery piece. So I was kind of expecting to lose one plane. So I didn't manage to bombard, but sadly I think I would have need two of them, and I lost. Or I don't know. I'm not sure if I lost the bomber, but as you can see, I will have need more bombs. And the thing is that even though you don't necessarily have visual on those artillery piece, each time artillery piece fire, you have a visual on them, kinda. So I wanted to do a sneaking move and bombard them. Sadly, that also defeated my plan. Well, here my World War II tank are suppressing a few infantry, which seem very confused. These are Chinese reservists, essentially, called Yubei or something like that. Baratino decided to bombard my town here. Fortunately, I had nothing of value, really. I had a good number of tank, as you can see here. But as I said before, losing them is not that worrisome. Now, these are actually Japanese APCs. This thing is very similar to a Bradley. It doesn't have that many missile, but also the cannon is 35 millimeter. So this is a very good transport. I really like it. Okay, you want to see a chaparral. Do we even have chaparral in this? I don't think we do. Yeah, nobody was American in this. The chaparral only look different in the fact that they have 16 missile now instead of 4, which is a very big difference. And the other aspect is that one of them has longer range, and it has the capacity to be amphibious, so it can go across river and do as if nothing happened. Now here I had my tank out of fuel. Actually, they were not out of fuel. I just did not care about them. These are an interesting troop transport. here I'm using M67 Han, which are an anti-tank. It has the same anti-tank weapon as the Kyoto die. The difference here, I'm not sure why, how they justify that, but is that the let's say regular infantry or close quarter combat infantry version doesn't have HE power, while the anti-tank version has HE power, which make that anti-tank infantry actually very good against infantry. You can see that it does have a rather good range. The only issue is that unlike missile, it's a shorter range. Some dogfighting going on here. But the thing is that, yeah, the M67, which is the weapon in question here, it's actually very good because with the new maps in this game, there's a lot of area which are actually very close. So it's very, you end up fighting in very close quarter fight, all things considered. Because of either cover, buildings, forest, and that kind of stuff. So as a result, even if you don't necessarily have the best TGM infantry, these recoilless rifle end up being very effective, maybe even more than if they were missiles. Because in many cases, if you look at it, you don't need that much range between that forest and that town. It's not that far. Sure, the missile can be very deadly, but it's not the only thing that you can use. So here apparently they did try to make a small sneaky move. I think these are reservists. Yeah. Took care of that with choppers. You can see how suppressed they are. That's a ninja chopper right here. This chopper is actually air-to-air, so very good to chase chopper down. Well, here they are trying to sneak around with reservists. Oh, that was a good shot there. It's probably the roll-in tree, very deadly weapon. Now you have those APCs which are suppressing the reservists over there. The reservist is a very slow unit, but since they are numerous, they can hold their own for a while. So it's a kind of unit which is not killing much enemies, but they're just able to slow down your enemies. So I was suppressing them with my APCs. I guess what's a little disappointing about that specific APC is how it only has 2 missiles. If it had, let's say, 4 missiles instead of 2, it will be amazing. Maybe OP. Because it has the same caliber, I think, as the Swedish troop transport. So even if it's really powerful against armor, let's check the stats. So you can see that this autocannon has 3 AP power, which is kind of high. Also, because it's an autocannon, you're able to deal with choppers also. You can notice just by the amount of crater around the place that this town has been under so much artillery fire. Hope they have good insurance. Here I brought some Type 91 anti-air PSMA, which should just shut down a chopper over here. Seemed to be a kind of stinger or something. Seems that on this side nothing happened. Well, here they did receive a lot of artillery, but it's not with artillery that you advance in this game. It's with tank. So our adversaries were mostly playing defensively there. And using artillery. Using artillery can work well in destruction, as I said before, but in economic or conquest, it's not the right tool. Oh, what's going on? They probably are building up force. Okay, they're making a push in the center now. The tiger is a little stunned. I did expose this APC a little too much. There was just too many enemies there. It was a bad move. Yeah, they kept sending reservists, which was just not good enough to even defeat those anti-tank infantry here. Actually, you can see how the anti-tank infantry here is suppressing with the anti-tank weapon, which has 3 HE power, so they are actually very reliable for taking care of enemy infantry. The only downside to that specific unit is that they are only 5 in the team, but that's actually more than most ATGM infantry, which are normally 2. So that M67 and is actually a very reliable defensive force, both against vehicle and infantry. And on top of that, that anti-tank weapon will stun the infantry, so that means you will have slowed down the enemy, which is something very nice. My PCs are killing those Stratas. Yeah, these are the North Korean unit I keep praising, but the only issue with that unit is that it's a very weak unit, all things considered. It's just that the fact that it has anti-air make them very good at supporting other force, but you should not use them as tank. And that's why this APC right here took care of them very easily. Actually, here you have BMP, what version is that? BMP 685. It's actually a pretty good vehicle. It has a good cannon, but once again, used in an open field like that, it turns out my APCs are stronger, even though I think I lost 1 to it. So I'm on top of that receiving artillery fire. So they really don't like my troop transport. So it seems that I'm receiving a big attack of reservists, which is a smart move. He should have done that much earlier. And this is one case where the number will win, because but actually here I had an ally, Mr. Pancake, which brought a few Fusiliers, and these are actually proper troops. They have static machine gun, which is okay, not as good as CQB, but good enough. Even was some T-72 BU. These are T-90 for those that confuse the thing. It's the same thing. The only difference is the BU version has missiles, while the other one only has the North Korean T-90 only has cannons. So they brought those shortly, which we insert with those choppers here. Well, even Harrier decided to do a flyby. But the Tunguska here did prove its worth once again, taking care of all the chopper up there, or keeping them away. Tornado. What is this? This might be the suppression of air defense tornado. And that tornado did manage to shoot down the Tunguska and Nosa. Was a Buratino right there. And all this kind of cleared the way to kill those T-72 BU. While the fight in the town was lasting a while, as you can see, because those reservists are really taking a while to kill. On top of that, the Buratino is suppressing everybody. So those T-72 BU were taken care of by our Cobras over here. So was that MI something? And there we go. So that was a pretty good round. I did kill 3,196 enemies. Plus 1,950, so that was a good balanced fight. My ally did also very well. I think we were in a good team. I'm not sure if I have. I don't have all the score that I had because I did switch between players. But you can see here that my Kyoto Tai did very well. They were the one making most of the kills. And this is infantry, so it can be pretty good. So what I'll do now is I'll just show you guys the two decks that I did use in this live stream. So let's do so. The first battle, let's see, it was this one. So you can see no specialization. And you can see just by the design of this deck that it was built for being absurd. So the command vehicle T-72K1, that's a tank to capture a zone essentially, and infantry with MI-8, North Korean, MI-26 to refuel and rearm everybody, even though I did not use it at all. Colors to refuel and rearm, I did use 2 of them in the first replay. Then you have that very good infantry here. So let's see, with the famous transport over here, very good stuff. The transport has 16 Strela 2M, so good unit. to support your T-34. I had 2 groups of that infantry because it's mostly interesting because of the transport. Then I had commandosi. These I mostly use for capturing the towns and holding it. They are extremely reliable as they used to be in Airland battle, and they're good in CQB. Then I use those tanke shashu or something like that. And as you can see here, actually here, there we go. 12 AP power, that's good. What's also interesting is 3 HE power, which make them effective against infantry as well. So even though there are not that many soldiers and they don't have any weapon right here, it's a good unit to defend a town against both tank and infantry. Then I did use, well, I don't think I used the VDVs, but I have some in my deck as a complement to my commandosi. With the BMD-2, which has an autocannon, I think, yeah, autocannon and missile, so it's very similar to a BMP-3, maybe not as good, but it's a fairly effective unit. Then here you can see that my support is really not complex at all. It's a bunch of Strela 10M, and the reason why I did not really do anything else in terms of support was that the whole point of this deck was to do a T-34 rush, and the Strela 10M is probably the most reliable anti-air you can bring, and that will fire on the enemy on the move. So this is why there's only that kind of, and I give them experience also. T-34, so there was the question how many you can have. So here I have 1 East German group of 32, 2 a North Korean group of 32, 1 Polish group of 40, and 1 Russian group of 32. So globally that's 168 units. And actually to recreate this deck in your game, I did put in the description of the video the code for it for importation, if you want to try that craziness. Recon, I did not really use recon that much, but I used those North Korean sniper. Good stuff. Mi-24K, reliable recon. What's interesting here is the Chinese, they have that ZTQ-62I or 1. And this is a tank. It's actually a T-62 essentially, but this is a recon. So very curious thing there, and it's actually pretty good, all things considered. And 34, 5. Sorry, why did I miss by 1 each time? Anyway, so I can have a good amount of them. Not that expensive, and recon. So I did not use that in the replay, but that's probably a unit which you can use in many different occasions. Vehicle, I did not use that, but this is also complementary to the T-34. And here, personally, I think this is something that will likely change, because if you look at it, here I have Mi-24, and there's no restriction of rank, which I believe is probably something that will change, and it's very likely that you'll end up with train and veteran, so that will reduce the amount. But right now you can have 3 groups of 20 Mi-24, and these were the Mi-24 you saw to be used that essentially won the battle for us. So you can have 60 units of Mi-24, which is probably, you know, clear spamming there. But I don't think this will go on like that. I hope they will balance that out. For air, I went with MiG-23ML, which is a proper fighter. I mostly use that because it's not expensive. It can fire at both chopper and planes, but it's really because it's not expensive. It's kind of fast. It's okay, and the whole point of this is just to purely and simply ensure the air superiority. Okay, then Navy doesn't really matter, but I usually have that as standard. So that is it for my T34 spam deck, I will call that. I called it safe number because you're never too safe unless you have the number. So there's a large amount of units here. So saving the change. Now the other deck I did use was Japanese, specialized in mechanized. So here, let's see. So tank command vehicle. Because this was mechanized, I did not have access to infantry, so I did use a jeep like that. Some supply trucks, some supply choppers, and FOB. And that's it for logistic. Infantry, Kyoto Tai in a KV 107. So this unit, I think this is the best unit of the Japanese. You literally build a deck around this unit because of their anti-tank capacity here and their CQP capacity. So this unit will really be your ultimate unit for defending town. So what you want to do is to capture the town as fast as possible. And very reliable unit. It only costs 20. It's not probably not as good as Delta Force or something like that, but it will be able to deal with most enemy infantry units in town. So I have 3 groups of them. Then I use the M67 Han with that troop transport. The combo is very effective because first of all, this anti-tank can shoot at infantry because of the HE power of 3. And the troop transport has missiles, so it makes the combo very effective at dealing with defending line of trees or towns. And they will be able to take care of enemy tank, most likely. Now, I did not talk much about that anti-air, but this is pretty much like a Strela. Not a Strela, but a Stinger. So I use 2 groups of them because this is a deck which is mechanized. So as a result of this, you want to bring some anti-air infantry and probably spread them around the place to harass the enemy. And you give them experience so that they never miss. And in the replay, might not have been obvious, but it's very effective. Okay, here I use those Shuju Han 90. Well, I did not really, I don't think I did use them at all. No, I did not. But this is like a regular infantry, so probably good to defend town. I use the same transport as the previous unit over here. Yeah, so same transport, cheaper infantry. Then I use the Shumat, which is your ATGM infantry. I didn't use them in the replay, but I guess if you have an open area, it's pretty reliable infantry. For support, I use gun tank. I'm not sure if that will remain that name, but this is like a flak gun. I use some artillery, which I did not really use in the replay. Some Hawk, pretty standard stuff. For the tank, I did use those, well, this is a mechanized deck, so as a result I don't have the best Japanese tank, but this one is the best you can have for mechanized. So this one, what's interesting is that it does have a grenade launcher, which is an interesting feature that allows it to potentially bombard and stun the enemy while shooting them with the cannon. So it's a nice combo. I don't think I did use it, but I think if I was to use a tank, that's probably hit. Then here, because of the kind of urban environment that I was in the second replay, I did use that tank much more, which is a World War II tank. Because of the nature of the terrain where I was fighting, such tank can be very effective because it does have armor, so it can survive a little longer. Secondly, you can have many of them for 10 points. And in an urban environment, you don't really care about losing them, so it's kind of good complement to your infantry. The only challenge here is to maintain their fuel level high, because the autonomy is only 200 kilometers, so you will have to follow them with supplies. OH-60, so this is my recon. This one has rockets. I used 2 groups of them. I'm not sure if I did use them. I don't think I did. But this is a very light, flexible, vulnerable chopper. Kind of practical, but don't expect that much from it. There just wasn't any other interesting units for me in this particular deck to use in recon. In vehicle, I did not use these either, but they have I'm using those 2 light vehicle which have ATGM missile, so good stuff. Very dangerous. 21 AP power here, while here you have longer range, so there's a small difference between the 2, which only were 5 points difference, but one of them is close quarter punch, while the other one is long range hit, so kinda. Use a lot of Apache because I had the point for that, so not Apache, Cobra, sorry. Then here in planes I use the F1. This one has guided bombs. Not particularly strong, but I guess this is a reliable plane to take care of light vehicle like anti-air or that kind of stuff. The only issue I have with it is that it has a tendency to die all the time. It doesn't have ECM. If you lose sight on the target, you will likely just fly above without ever releasing a bomb. So it's a kind of mixed feeling about this plane. It's just practical if you have a good sight on a target. It also has some missiles, so you might potentially hurt the chopper as you fly above, but other than that, it's not particularly amazing. I have F-15G, so this one is your pretty much F-15A, I think. Yeah. So Sparrow missile. That's your main fighter. You can have 6 of them, which is a good amount. But it's clear that you'll need to target the plane specifically because there's no fire and forget on this. Here, these I did fly a few. Oh yeah, that's the plane which I used to bombard those artillery in the back. So these are have 8 bombs. Good payload. They have Sparrow missiles, which are okay. But actually that makes them interesting as a fighter because the Sparrow missile have a good range, so you're able to actually use these planes for dogfighting. It's just that their main interest is probably the bombs. So it can actually have an interesting role there. The only issue is you don't have much ECM. While the F-15 has 40% ECM, which is much better. The Navy, pretty much the same all the time until, because right now I cannot play any naval map so far in this beta, so we're pretty much stuck waiting for this part of the game to come out. And hopefully that will be good. But that will be it for today. Let me just check if there's any amazing question there. VHC category. VHC category, what's that? In vehicle category, perhaps? That must be related to... let's go in vehicle. Well, the thing is that some tanks are classified in vehicle probably because they are used as support mostly. I'm not sure. I think in some case it will not be surprising if they were there as a mistake. But for example, you know, some tank are flamethrowers, so they are support kind of. The vehicle category is usually used as specialized weaponry, essentially. So, for example, here you have a Zippo, American Zippo, so that's a flamethrower. Doesn't even have a gun there. It's a flamethrower only. And here these are tank killer. So usually it's in vehicle category, that's mostly vehicle which are either tank buster or anti-tank weaponry or troop transport or flamethrower. That kind of stuff. In some case, some anti-air are there, but it's kind of category where, oh well, that vehicle is not good enough to be considered something else, but it does have a purpose on the battlefield, so that's probably why these tanks are there. So it's a kind of a support thing. Okay, on this I will take a break, and hopefully I'll make a live stream very soon, and until then I hope you guys will think about getting this game, which I really very much enjoy and I think should be more popular, and enjoy life. So I'll see you then.